Reason number one, impulse control. You have been scammed and brainwashed about how your mindfulness, your willpower works, and because of that, you end up making worse progress than you actually can. Willpower is an idea based off of 40-60-year-old research which eventually came to be called ego depletion. And this research is turning out to be false and is something which is keeping you, holding you back. Ego depletion was the theory that you are waken up with 100 brain points every single day and you need to use them wisely. Otherwise, when you run out of them, when you slowly start to reach zero, you will end up making worse decisions, you will become more angsty, you will end up being just worse overall, and hence you will need rejuvenation of some kind, like watching TV, watching pornography, or anything else. This is a psychological operation, this is a psyop, this is a brainwashing, and this is something keeping you down. The reason this theory got so famous is because it justified a lot of people's mediocrity, because they claim that ooga booga, look at the science, it's clearly saying that I need to rest, that I need to drink alcohol to wind down, blah blah blah, when it is simply untrue. What rejuvenation actually means is something like sleep. That is all there is to the willpower aspect. And they did a study about people who believe that willpower was limited and people who believe that willpower was unlimited, right? The people who believed, just simply believed, there was no other difference between them. The people who believed that willpower was unlimited performed better than people who believed that willpower was limited. If you place chains on your mind, if you place constraints on your mind, of course you will act like they're there. And that will of course make you worse. Another thing that scientists are trying to find out right now is, what does true willpower mean? What does willpower in an unlimited sense means? And they are looking at people, specimens like David Goggins, very high entrepreneurs and whatnot, and what they find is that these people don't exactly have this normie understanding of willpower, but more like they think of it as unlimited and they think of it as mindfulness. I just need to be here this very second. I need to show up this very moment. I need to run one more step. I need to do one more pull up. I can do it right now. I can feel the urge of going up. That's the only thing I can do. Don't think about the next step. Think about this one. Be in the present moment. Be in the present moment and just fucking show up. That is what it truly means. What you need to understand is that whilst your brain is very useful, the human part, the logical part, the ego part of your brain has only been around for a few thousand years compared to the reptilian or the emotional part of your brain, which have been around for millions of years. So you need to act like it. You need to understand that these two parts of your brain, which make up more than 60% of your brain, have a lot of influence on your logical part. So if these both are emotionally or mentally convinced that the pornography or anything else is useful to you, they will of course put pressure on your logical brain, and the logical brain will of course end up coming up with more reasons to use pornography. We will get into the logical and emotional part of your brain later, but what you need to understand is that your brain can trick you, can justify anything, and what you need to do is separate yourself from your thoughts, from your emotions, and you need to see yourself as simply the observer. You are someone who holds the game controller. You are not the person in the video game. You are not the character with the traumatic backstory. You are simply the person with the controller who is thinking, ooga booga, make him naked, ooga booga, give him 50,000 swords or some crap. You are simply the observer, the person with the controller in your hand, and you need to act like it. The impulses are very easy to break down and make, right? There was a study about dogs and how we can associate habits or we can break them down. So they took a dog, and whenever they fed it food, they would ring a bell. And whenever they rang the bell, the dog would slowly start to make an association in his brain that, okay, I like food, so I will salivate when I get food because it will help me digest it, right? That's why dogs salivate. That's why humans salivate. And so what the dog learns is that every time, okay, I am getting food, the bell will ring. So ringing is equals to I will start to salivate, and that is what the dog learns, and that is what he eventually ends up doing. But what people forget about the study, this is called Pavlov's dog by the way, is that they desensitized the dog too. They first taught it the association and then they broke it down. The dog of course had a harder time with it because it started growling, it started whelping, it started barking, and all of these things will not be dealt with you because you are different from your emotions, you are different from your impulses compared to the dog who is simply his impulses and emotions. you will have a far easier time with this, so be grateful for that. The logical brainwashings are also pretty easy to deal with, but I do get a little angry when I think about them. And this isn't because ooga booga they're hard to deal with, but more about how they came to be. So there's two reasons why logical brainwashings exist, and this is because of the inner world, which is your brain, the reptilian part, and the mammalian or the emotional part, putting force on your brain, on your logical brain, telling you to justify the porn usage because they think that it's useful for the body, right? And the other part is the culture, the brainwashings in the culture, the obsession with sex, losing virginity, all of these things, and how they come to just make our brain constantly think about sex, especially after we're 12 or some crap. Not to mention how easy it is to get pornography and whatever, and how it quite literally does self-harm to us, and it's still allowed. I won't talk that much about the societal aspect of it. I'm sure you already know about that. You're smart enough. But the thing is that you need to convince the logical part of your brain about why pornography is bad. So imagine in your mind that there is a pros and a con sheet, and people have plenty of other self-limiting beliefs about it too, which again you need to drag from the pro sheet to the con sheet. Something like, if I have an urge, I have to trigger my flight or fight response in that, okay, I got to use my willpower or some crap. I got to turn on the fucking blockers. I got to leave the damn room. I got to do this. I got to do that. When you don't have to do that, the reason you're getting stressed, the fact you're getting stressed, is exactly why pornography has so much power over you, why you keep continuing to use it. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It becomes a negative feedback loop. And if when you start breaking that, when you start seeing that, oh yeah, I was doing that, that's pretty stupid, and you will forget what the fuss was about. Another thing that people say to me is that lust increases with time, bro. My balls get so hard, blah, blah, blah. And that isn't how it fucking works. If you actually end up building a lot of sperm, a lot of testosterone and whatnot, it will come out in way different ways compared to just ooga booga, nutting or some crap, right? You can simply just masturbate if that is really the fucking point. You don't need to use pornography for that, one self-limiting belief. Another thing is that a lot of people just have nocturnal emissions or wet dreams, which easily get rid of the extra sperm or the old sperm to make space for the new one, so you don't really need to worry about that. Another thing is that if it actually gets old and your body doesn't use wet dreams, the body will simply break down the sperm and it will use them, reabsorb them back into the body and use it to make our health better, use it to make our face better, reduce our pimples and whatnot, and do things like that. The one that gets me the angriest though is that porn isn't a choice, right? If you actually had a physical drug or whatnot, you would have some withdrawal symptoms and everything else, but with pornography those are very minor to the point that they're not even worth worrying about, because they're just, okay, I got a little headache, just fucking get on with it. What are you, a bitch? Anything else is like concentration, right? People say that it improves my concentration or some crap, when these are simply fucking self-limiting beliefs. Concentration reduces overall, firstly. I think I've said this multiple times in other videos. And another thing is that, taken to its logical extremes, if concentration in the immediate is so fucking important to you, why don't you just start taking fucking cocaine or methamphetamines or some crap? You will have concentration, but oh wait, you don't want to deal with the consequences. This is how people think about pornography, how normal people who are not addicted to it think about pornography. They understand that there's too many losses. They understand that this is a learned fucking behavior and they don't want to learn it. They haven't learned it and hence they're not attracted to it. Hey, before we get further into the video, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe and comment, because it will help other people find the video and actually help them get towards freedom like you are doing so right now. There's also a course which is in pre-sale right now, so if you're interested in that, because the price will only continue to get higher, then there's the link in the description below. Anyways, number 3, which I'd argue is the most complex, not hard particularly, is our emotional justifications. This is something that you need to understand. Your emotions are the primary reason why you do anything and everything, right? So imagine something like taking a shower. You shower because you think that it will improve your body, because you think that it's a completely logical thing to do, but it is not. You don't care about logic. When you say your reasons about why you shower, you will say something like, it keeps me clean. But what it keeps me clean means is that you want to avoid diseases, you want to avoid smelling bad, you want to avoid feeling bad. And that is what it means. You do things because you want to get a benefit, an emotional benefit, like, oh, you smell nice or something, bro. Or you want to avoid a negative thing which you will have to deal with. So for example, something like being smelly means people will talk less to you, etc. And these are the reasons why we do anything, why we use anything. And the same is with pornography. What it means is that you need to identify the actual reasons you're using it, the emotional justifications behind your brain. So one thing that I've seen a lot, especially with emotional justifications with my friends, myself, my clients, is that they often confuse cause and effect, right? And so they think that they're purposeless and hence why they use pornography. But I'd say that they are purposeless because partially they use pornography. They are stressed because they use pornography. They have low concentration because they use pornography. Pornography. But the point is that they misunderstand what is causing this and what is fixing this, right? It isn't fixing the fucking problem. It's fixing for the emotions. And when you understand that, when you see that, okay, I'm not actually fixing the fucking problem, I am just adding to it constantly by being in this negative feedback loop, and I need to break out of it by fixing the fucking problems, right? And another thing is that, okay, you're doing these things, the reason for using pornography is now less. But things like problems, things like purposelessness, which comes in cycles, things like stress, they never go away, right? You will always have stress over something. And what you need to understand is that pornography isn't the answer to it, right? And that is what you need to teach your brain. You need to understand, you need to show your brain, you need to emotionally feel it that pornography isn't the answer. And the way we fix that problem is by looking at our brainwashings, looking at our self-limiting beliefs, looking at our impulse control, or the way we think or speak about pornography. For example, a lot of people say giving up, sacrifice, it's my crutch, it makes me do that, or some shit, whilst it has no fucking soul. It's just a bunch of fucking dendrites on your brain or some crap. It doesn't have any control over you. You are the one choosing it at the end. And when you realize that, sure, you will be sad for a few seconds, but you will be so fucking empowered because you understand that I'm using this. It's in my fucking control. It's in my hands, and I can easily get rid of this. What your goal is meant to be is thinking of not using pornography as a hygiene factor, not something which improves you, but something which you don't do, something which is the bare minimum, something which if you don't do, you feel like a fucking dumbass, right? So for example, this is something like brushing. You do it because it is useful to you. You don't use pornography, much like you don't use cocaine or some crap, because it is bad for you, because you have fucking unlearned the behavior. You have understood that it's weird as fuck. And of course, it will take some time. Think of it like walking, right? Sometimes you'll get tired, but you will just get up and you will walk back up and you will continue to make progress and progress and progress. You will, of course, nut a few times here and there, but it doesn't have to be like that. The fact that you're here, the fact that you still have that fire inside of you telling you to be better, the fact that you are getting better actively is proof that you can improve. If you want help with this, then link in the description below, and cheers.